swinging a high drive into center field. It's at the wall. It is gone. Casas does it again. It's gone. It's into the bullpen. This game is tied.
He swings and rips one to center field. It's high. It's deep. It's back. It's gone. Sale winds. He fires. Swing and a miss. Strike three. It's over. The Red Sox have won the World Championship.
Welcome back to Play Tessie. It's episode 179. This is the official Red Sox podcast of WEI. Remember, wherever you get your podcasts, hit that subscribe button, rate 5 stars, leave a comment. Find us on YouTube. We're on the WEI channel. Got the Play Tessie playlist there. Hit the thumbs up on the videos and subscribe to WEI. And find us on the socials at Play Tessie on both Twitter and Instagram. Sammy's here. Pat's here. It's Gordo here with you guys. Vibes have been super high vibes just since the Alex Bregman signing. Super high vibes. And this is actually, Sammy, we were talking about it before. Actually, no. Maybe Pat, we were talking about it. I don't know. We're talking about it with someone before one of you guys got on or when one of you guys was missing. And this is the longest we've gone without a pod since the very end of the season. We took like a 2-week break out after the season. And like outside of that, pretty much since we started the show, probably the longest we've gone without a podcast. And so like appreciate everyone who has been, missing us over the last however many days. We dropped one on Thursday. This one's dropping on Tuesday. Just kind of how it worked because the Bregman signing happened on a night where it's like, okay, our third podcast is going to drop on a Thursday for the week, so we won't do a Friday. And then there was the holiday on Monday, so it's like we won't drop till Tuesday. So it's just kind of how it worked out, but good to be back.
Feels good, and it is a fantastic day to have a Red Sox-centered podcast, which is what we're doing here. Lots to discuss, which is nice. That's 2 in a row where we've had a ton to discuss. We're not kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel to keep everyone entertained. So looking forward to this one, boys.
Yeah. I mean, coincidentally, we got every spring training storyline we could have ever wanted over this 5-day stretch. So, we got some talking to do.
Yeah, let's just get right into it because this Devers, we could talk Dylan Cease stuff too. If we want to talk Sam Kennedy, we can, but I don't know. He said there's more room to spend midseason. Kind of is what it is. Self-explanatory. They could add if they want to. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. It's not like they're stretched by a deadline. But the Devers thing, in my opinion, is the most interesting thing. It certainly got the most play on Twitter naturally. Like I was literally about to go to like the furniture store today to shop for like a couch and a mattress. And I told my wife like, oh, just Devers is about to speak. Just I'll listen to this for 10 minutes and then we'll go. And I just had no idea that he was going to drop the sort of nuke on Red Sox Nation that he did. I didn't think he necessarily like meant to do it like that. But basically, if you didn't hear what he had to say to the media, he sat on the bench, did his press availability. They asked him if the team has talked to him about moving off of third base. He said that they approached him on Friday about it, which is after the Bregman signing. He said he does not want to move off third base, asked like a million times, does not want to move off third base. Asked about DH, he says he doesn't have interest in DHing. Asked about first base, says he doesn't have interest in playing first base. They asked if he would refuse. He said he would refuse. Then he was asked if he would potentially request a trade if the Red Sox said you're not going to play third base. And he didn't say no. He didn't say no. Like he said, he gave a long-worded answer, and all we have to go off of is the translation. Said Boston's all he's known, but certainly did not say he would not request a trade if they moved him off third base. And the interesting thing here is they promised him at the time he signed that contract extension that he would play third base for years to come, for a long time. Alex Cora took the bench soon after Devers' press availability, and he kind of put it on Heim because he said, yeah, like the people who made those decisions, yeah, Heim's in St. Louis now. So just like an all-around, I don't want to say disaster class on the bench today because like the truth of the matter is, we could get to opening day and there's a good chance that this is all smoothed out and ironed out by then. and it's a nothing burger. But like for the time being right now, as we sit here, drop day is February 18th. Like this is a real story and it's a legitimate concern in my opinion until it gets smoothed out. So we're going to have to see how it plays out. We're going to have to see what they want to do from here. But yeah, Rafi is not, he's not happy that they seem to maybe want to move him off third base.
Yep. Yeah. And we kind of all expected him to be upset with this when it inevitably came up. The thing that surprised me was how pointed he was and how stern his answers were. Not that he was upset. It was just the way they were conveyed. And we have to mention it was a translated interview. So you never know if stuff gets lost, but we're going to take everything as if it was, perfectly translated. That's all we have to go off of. It is. And I have to be very careful with how I word this because we all love Rafael Devers. I don't want anything I say to be conflated as if I don't love Rafael Devers. He's great. He's fun to root for. I couldn't be happier that he's here for the long haul. That said, it's pretty tough for me to stand up for him today. I didn't love the quotes. It's one thing to have pride in the position you play. I totally get that. That is not lost on me. He's been a third baseman his entire career. And he's probably been a great, coming up through the minors and everything. He's probably been not that bad of a defender. Then he gets to the major league level and all of a sudden everyone's ahead of him. So he's playing catch up. The problem is he doesn't really have a leg to stand on here. If he were on a rookie deal and he were a guy that wanted to get paid, he has a chance to make life-changing money. I would understand a little bit more. He's already been paid. So check, that's one thing. Second, the defense. People have varying degrees of how bad they think the defense is. I think we can all agree that it's at least below average. I think it's pretty bad. Gordo, I know you don't think it's as bad as I think it is. And I think more people who are around the game agree with you on that. Statistically, he's towards the bottom of the barrel. So whatever school of thought you subscribe to, it's not good defense. Yes, he has made some slight improvements here and there, but everything is relative. Even with the improvements, he's still grading out 2024 8th percentile OAA. Yes, he's not making as many errors, but as Lou said today on his walk the ice cream, he was like doing the walk the dog thing, but with ice cream in honor of Rafi. It's the improvements it's not the errors, it's the range, it's the balls he's not getting to. And statistically speaking, he has been over the 25th percentile outs above average one time since 2017. And more it looks to be an outlier. If you guys have read that book, Outliers, great book, one of the handful of books I've read in my life. So that's two things. And the third thing, you just acquired Alex Bregman. The guy's a Gold Glove third baseman. And I know he can play second base. I think that's awesome. Personally, I'm with you guys. I would put him at second base to start the season. I think you can fit more guys in that way. But whatever. If Alex Cora, the manager, the guy who's pulling the strings, if he says Alex Bregman, a Gold Glove third baseman, is going to play third base, and you, Rafael Devers, you're going to DH, that's what goes. He's the manager. You've been paid. You're being paid by the Red Sox to play baseball. That's how it goes. It's a job. And the last thing I'll bring up, and this is the sensitive subject, and people are going to get on me for this, but I'm sorry, I have to bring it up. He has, again, come into camp visibly not looking good, out of shape. And I know he puts in the work defensively, but you got to see him put in the work in the gym and looking fit when he shows up. Dan Shaughnessy today asked him, how much do you weigh? He said 240 pounds. That's more than Big Papi weighed. Big Papi, who is 3 inches taller than Devers, would usually weigh in at 230. So I don't want to get on the guy for his weight too much, but it's hard not to acknowledge it. You got to come in. You're a professional athlete. You are with the Boston Red Sox, who could probably give you every single resource you could possibly need. I need to see him looking better in camp. I'm sorry. I hate to sound like that crazy caller who call and talk. He's fat. He's out of shape. It's hard not to notice. And no, we're not talking about Pablo Sandoval being 5'10", 265 pounds, whatever he was. It's not to that extent. I'll give him that. But it's still an issue. It's noticeable. So between those four things, the defense, the money, everything, the weight, all that, it's really, really hard for me to stand up for Devers in this case.
So Pat, I want to get your take here, because Sammy he has Devers as sort of in the wrong for pushing back on this, but Sammy brought up the weight thing, so I do want to touch up on that first. To me, if he produces, he produces, and he's come into camp many years before looking a little bit bigger than I think people would like him to, and time again, he's the best hitter on the team. And yeah, his defense is below average. Yes, last year he got hurt the injuries, in my opinion, have not been a big issue for Devers because he's always willing to play through things, and he plays well through those things. Last year was kind of the first time where it caught up with him. If it happens again this year, I think then there's a conversation to be had. But to me, like when Pablo Sandoval would come into camp overweight and then he would play awful and make a ton of money doing that. Yeah, like that's different. But like I truthfully, I don't care what Rafi looks like if he's going to produce. So until he doesn't produce, I don't think the weight is a big issue to me.
I'm with you. But I would agree more if he weren't constantly hurt and playing through things. And I know he can still play well when he's hurt.
A lot of that's like shoulder stuff. Like that's not going to be like a
generally.
thing.
It's just generally harder to stay healthy when you're carrying extra weight. Like it's like that in every sport. And
it's been a problem in 1 year. The injuries have affected his play one time. It's what happened once.
Sure. I mean, he's doing it in 2021 too. I mean, he played fine in 2021 with the injured arm. But how do you know it could have been better if he weren't hurt? It's just like, I can't just say he plays well when he's hurt. Don't worry about it. You know, when the one time that I really wouldn't care about his weight one bit is if he were a DH. If he wants to be on the field and be moving laterally quickly back and forth, a third baseman, you got to have lightning fast reactions. And I know it's not like shortstop or second where you need the most incredible range ever. And we've seen Rafi play good defense before. But when you're coming in at 6 foot 240, it's harder to do. And I hate talking about this. I hate how it sounds coming out of my mouth talking about this. But like we've said on Play Tessie before, I'm going to tell you how I feel. This is how I feel. Love it or hate it. I'm sorry. 6 foot 240. It's not pretty.
Pat, when Rafi said what he said today, there's two schools of thought to look at it. There's the he's gotten paid. He should do what's best for the team. If the team thinks this is best, this is what he should do. And then there's the school of thought of I'm the star, or you want your star player wanting to be out there, wanting to play third base, wanting to fight for his position. I think there's a little bit of both going on here because like the way I would look at it is I want him to fight for that spot. I want him to want to be out there. But if at the end of spring training, they say you're not the third baseman, I don't want him creating a stink about it. So like it remains to be seen where it's going to end up. So like there is a lot of this to be played out, but where does your head stand on the whole Rafi pushing back here on Monday the 17th?
I don't want to say expected. We all kind of, I think every single person would have said that he was going to be, not thrilled moving up of third. So the idea of that today was not remotely surprising. Like Sammy said, the one thing that was surprising was how adamant he was. It wasn't even like, let's see where camp takes us. Let's see what Cora says. We'll let things play out. I'm open. I've made up my mind. He just flat out said no, which was kind of crazy. And he was pretty vocal about his no's. Like it wasn't if this, wait for this, until this. It was just no. I think it's an I don't want to sound like condescending, but like it is kind of hypocritical, isn't it? Because the past 2 years, he's been begging and begging and begging the Red Sox to invest, make a better team, upgrade. Look at it in a vacuum. There was so many areas they needed to upgrade heading into the offseason. Starting pitching, you got Garrett Crochet, you got Walker Buehler. Bullpen, you got Aroldis Chapman, you got Justin Wilson. Right-handed bat, in infield defense. It just so happened to come in one guy. And if you look around the infield, sure, there was just a carousel of guys at second base. I would still say the weakest defensive spot in the infield was third base. And I don't think that's much of a conversation point.
Oh, I think it was second base. It was second base.
But weird. My point being now is that no matter what, if Bregman plays third or Bregman's at second, you have a guy who is going to be there every day. So you're not going to have this cast of misfits playing second base. If it's Campbell, if it's Bregman, if it's Grissom, whatever. So third base is very easily identifiably the biggest hole in terms of defense to upgrade. So when you do that, it's just like you finally upgrade. You spend the money. You get this great player. He's a better third baseman than you. I don't care what you say. Better baseball player? Sure, it's a conversation point because Rafi's bat is just miles better. But you're not being paid for your third base defense. So I get it. It's encouraging that he is dying on this hill. He wants to be out there. He wants to more or less be forced out of it. I get it. I appreciate it. I love that he wants to be out there. I would hate if he was just like, oh, I've been waiting to DH, But it's like, you can't put up a fuss because they finally upgrade. He's better than you at your own position, and you are best suited for DH. And like Sammy said, I don't want to sound bad, but 6 foot 240 does not profile as the most agile and defensively skilled third baseman on the planet. I'm sorry.
Pat, I want to touch on 2 points that you brought up at the beginning. The first you sort of talked about, maybe it's a surprise that he was, because I agree with you. It was a surprise to hear him as adamant as he was. It just didn't feel like that was in his personality to push back publicly, at least, that hard. I was surprised about that. But what I wasn't surprised about was that he was going to push back on this. We've been talking about this all offseason. There's a reason that his agent would tell anyone who would ask, who would listen, that no, Rafi takes pride in third base. This is his position. No one should be surprised that Devers doesn't want to move off of the position. This was to be expected. It was always going to be an issue. If they got Nolan Arenado, it was going to be an issue. They got Alex Bregman. To me, the obvious decision here would have been to put Bregman at second base. He would improve that position defensively immensely. In a position last year where Emmanuel Valdez led the team in games played, and that position was, I believe...
Don't even mention him. Don't mention him.
He did post a very good picture on social lately.
Yeah, dude, what was that? Way too cool. Way too cool. By the way, I wanted to jump in when Pat was talking real quick. The second base defense, I get it. I think Valdez, I believe, was -9 of those outs above average. Like, he really skewed that. But anyway, sorry, continue.
He did. But in terms of why Rafi is because Pat, you talked about he asked them to make additions, and now they make additions, and he seems to be upset with what those additions are doing to him. I get that mindset. If they got Nolan Arenado, I think I'd be a little bit more on your boat, because then they could say, hey, this was the one guy that we could get that could improve the team, and I'm sorry it just happened to come at your position. But with Bregman, he could play a good second base. We know it. We've seen it. He played it before, not the big league level, but he's built like a second baseman. His defensive profile with his range and maybe his lesser arm strength, it profiles as a second baseman. If I'm Rafi, I'm saying, hey, he can play second base. Why you're getting Alex Bregman here? He can play second base. Why do I have to suffer here? Why? Like, you're doing this basically it's in the name of a rookie who can play the outfield too. Because every time I post on Twitter about how I would play Alex Bregman at second base, I keep getting told that it's going to block Christian Campbell. I know that they've been working Campbell a ton at second base this spring, but that's their decision. Christian Campbell can play left field. It could be Campbell in left, Duran in center, Abreu in right. And then when Roman makes his march to the majors, and yes, I do think he could use some additional time in AAA. And hey, maybe Campbell could too. But when that decision time comes, you make the decision then. Or maybe injuries take care of things, as they almost always do. But I respect where Rafi's coming from, because it just feels unnecessary. It just does. And I want my guy to put up that fight. I do. I want him to want it. I'm glad that he's taken the stand. That's where I'm at here.
I want him to want it too. The problem with me, Alex Cora is the manager. You defer to the manager. He is in charge. And if he deems that the best route for the team to take is with Devers DHing and Bregman at third, that's how it goes. What I don't like, I don't want there ever to be a scenario where the Red Sox don't do what's best for the team because they're afraid that Rafi's feelings will be hurt. That's unacceptable. That is very different to me than wanting to play third base. And I get that. I think that's great. I think it's great he wants to play third base. That's not my issue. My contention is the way that he handled it. That could have been, this is a story that didn't have to be a story. He could have completely media jargon this whole question line away. It wouldn't have been a story, but here we are. Now it's a story. What I will say, holy moly, Alex Cora, what an opportunity to earn your money. Make this story go away quickly. Imagine how many doubters he's going to win over. And there somehow are still a lot of people who don't like Alex Cora. Let me back up. I shouldn't say somehow. The team has not been good for a few years, so I get it. I'm a big Cora guy.
Not his fault. Not Cora's fault.
Sure. Some people disagree. I agree with you, Gordo, but whatever. Point being, listen to what the manager says. Big money moment for Alex Cora. I know he's already been paid, but this is like, show people why you got paid. Talk to your guy. You basically raised this guy, Devers. You've been managing him for 99% of his career. They have a great relationship, according to everyone we've spoken to. I'm fairly confident this is not going to be a story a week from now. Really hope so. And I think that the beauty of Alex Bregman over Nolan Arenado, and Gordo, we talked about this when we were leaving the studio the other day. Cora has a billion options. He could play Bregman at second. He could play Bregman at third. He could DH Devers. He could put him at third. He could do what you just said with Christian Campbell, put him in left, put him at second. He probably can play third. I wouldn't shock me. A million different options. So I think everybody on the Red Sox needs to agree that people are going to be moving around the field. This is how Alex Cora manages the team. This is how modern baseball is played.
But Sammy, didn't you find it weird that they said that they weren't going to do that? They said they weren't like that's what one of the things that surprised me the most. They said they didn't want to move Bregman around. Cora was talking about, yeah, we want to be doing less of that. That surprised me because I felt like the big benefit to Bregman over Arenado was that it would allow you to be flexible. Like if you were just going to pigeonhole the guy at third base, to be honest with you, like, I don't know, man, like Arenado's deal versus Bregman's deal. And I know Bregman only got 3 years, but
player.
Like, it's not by a ton though, man, in this
I
ballpark.
Think it's by a lot. I think it's by a lot. I think it's quite.
I don't know. Both elite
Nolan
defense,
Arenado
both put the bat on the ball.
I know, but Nolan Arenado is like,
player.
He's got so many red flags. We would have coped so hard. It would have been a fine backup plan, but it's just I think Bregman is good. It would have been fine. I think Bregman is just way better. But no, I mean, less moving around the field for the Red Sox is still more moving around the field than most teams. Like it's all relative. Like I get that. They want to do less of it. That doesn't mean they're not gonna do a lot of it. I mean, Yoshida alone requires a lot of moving parts whenever he's ready to go. So that's the whole thing that no one's talking about here is the like poor Masa Yoshida listening to this whole thing like what? What did I do? Not enough, Masa. That's what. But anyway, to put a bow on my on my Devers talk, I again, I really don't want people to think I don't like Devers. I hate to talk about the weight thing, but I can't not bring it up. I'm glad he wants it. I'm glad he's passionate, but I hope at the end of the day, everyone's an adult. Do what's best for the Red Sox. You already got your money, man. That's done. $330 million and change. Like, come on. So I don't think this is a story a week from now.
Question for Pat, because I know Sammy's answer to this. Sammy, you talked about do what's best for the team, and I agree, do what's best for the team. To me, though, we know that Rafi hits when Rafi's happy. When Rafi's hitting, he plays good defense. When he plays good defense, he's hitting. When he's happy, he's doing everything good. To me, what's best for the team is putting Devers in a position to be successful and happy. Like, he is who he is. He wants to do what he wants to do. Like, some of these things are just not controlled. Like, it's his natural instinct to want to play the field. And you can't just strip that from him. So to me, getting the best version of Rafael Devers and the happiest version of Rafael Devers is Rafi Devers at third. So I think what's best for the team is managing that personality, is keeping that guy happy. I know, Sammy, you're going to disagree with that. Pat, do you also disagree with that?
Yeah, I do. And like, I get it. Like, there's some guys who just need to be involved in every single pitch. And I get that. Like, being in the game defensively helps you be in the game offensively. I understand that. My big thing is, if you want it so badly, if you want to stay at third base so badly, your bat depends on it, your happiness with the team depends on it, why have you made minimal improvement over 7 years? And I guess some of that isn't necessarily his fault, but at the same time, you know, if I think it is. Like, you give 7 years to he was what, 20 when he came up? Is that right? 20 when he came up?
He was 20. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about a guy who was pre-prime and now into his prime, and there's been no substantial upgrades or improvements on the defensive side of the ball. So I would argue that playing third base and having good defense is not that important. And then I think the other part of it is, I don't think he realizes how sweet the DH life is. He strikes me as somebody who would fall into like the Jordan Alvarez category. of like once he's
Brutal.
kind of in that in that swing of a DH, he's just going to be an absolute monster and not complain about it.
And still play the field here and there too. It's not like he's Big Papi where he's strictly a DH. I'm sure he'd still moonlight at third. Gordo, quickly, can't even talk. Quickly to respond to you. I get where you're coming from. I just can't I can't agree with you got to keep this guy happy. We got to keep our Gold Glove third baseman at a different position because our 8th percentile third baseman needs to be happy or else he won't hit. Like, dude, you've got to make sacrifices at some point, Rafi. It's Major League Baseball. It's not like travel ball with high schoolers and this kid's emotional. We keep him happy. It's adults. These are adults. He's got to act like an adult. I don't think that's the case. I think he'll hit fine, whether he's happy at the start or not. Like, he'll settle in, like Pat just said. But Alex Cora cannot be making big choices like that based on keeping a guy happy. Like, it's just not. I can't vibe with that. I feel like such a boomer this episode.
I think the other thing too that I've been seeing is the correlation, or people trying to correlate, like Xander not moving off of shortstop for Trevor Story. That is so incredibly different because, again, Xander was not a great defensive shortstop. He never was. He was not incredibly below average. But then the other part of it is he was a year away from free agency. Shortstops get paid more than second baseman.
100%.
That guy, your veteran who's won 2 World Series with you and has been the shortstop for, I guess, both, but more like the most recent one. You owe him that respect, because if you can't re-sign him, you're doing him a favor and ensuring that he gets the highest market value he can. Devers is here for 10 years. He's not getting another contract in baseball. So
probably
I don't ever. So I don't see the correlation there. Like, I get, the leadership, the veteran stuff, but Xander was an average defensive shortstop and also a year removed from free agency. Rafi is
it's different. I agree.
Yes,
I agree, Pat. It is different in that regard. But the other thing here that we're not necessarily talking about yet, and we probably should talk about, is what is best for the 2025 Red Sox? Like, what is the best alignment that they can have? And B, you also have to plan for the potential that, hey, Alex Bregman at Fenway Park, hey, what if he has a great year and he opts out? So Devers is your DH, and now Bregman, after a year, opts out, leaves in free agency. What are you going to now? Devers is basically taking a year off defensively. You're going to throw him back out there at third? Or what? Does Marcelo Meyer become your third baseman? But what if Trevor Story? What if Trevor Story has a good year and opts out? Or what if Trevor Story is so bad that you don't want him to be your shortstop? Like, then Marcelo
Trevor Story opts out, I will eat my hat.
What about the other end of that, though, Sammy? Hold on. What about the other end of that? If he's so bad this year and now hasn't hit for now 3 straight years, that, hey, maybe you just don't want him out there, and Marcelo should be your shortstop. So, I'm just saying, like, if Bregman leaves in a year, there's going to be a lot of scenarios where either you're bringing Devers back into the field, or you have to sign like another stopgap shortstop third base type, because now Devers, who I agree already is a below average defensive third baseman, if he takes a year off, like, that's it, man. Like, he's your DH for what? Is it 8 or 9 years left? That's that. That's that.
Go ahead.
No. I think the other thing is, I think if Bregman opts out, him at third base is the best spot for him to opt out from. And I say that because you have, let's say hypothetically, okay, you have Devers at third, Story at short, and we'll say Campbell at second. Or sorry, Bregman at second. By default, Campbell goes in left field, whatever. If Bregman opts out, you can't really just move Campbell from a full rookie season in left field to second base. That's a little quirky. That's awkward. And then you do move Story to second, Marcelo to short, or if he opts out from third, Marcelo's playing second, short, and third this year. So Marcelo just slides right in. Campbell's your second baseman.
Who's your shortstop?
It's Trevor.
So Trevor, you're basically living in the world where Trevor Story is not so good that he doesn't opt out. But good enough where he
Timberland boot if Trevor Story opts out of this.
But what if he's so bad that you don't want him to be your shortstop? Like that's a big thing that could happen. Like that could happen. Trevor Story has not been good.
But what does this have? But this is such a reach for Devers playing third. We're talking about like maybe Story's so bad, and then like what about the moving parts? I just feel like it could be so simple if two things happen: either play Bregman at second base or Devers. Just listen to your manager. He's trying to do what's best for the team. Okay, question for you guys. Let's say hypothetically, Gordo, what you said happens, and Cora keeps Devers at third because he wants to keep him happy. And let's say that's like he says that to the media. I have two questions. One,
don't say that to the media.
They're gonna find out. They're gonna ask why is he playing third? It's best for the team. How? Well, keeps him happy. Anyway, what do we think the reaction from the media and the fans would be if Devers played third base because they want to keep him happy?
You can't let that get out there. I do think, and you see it in other sports, like it's part of the equation in all sports is keeping your stars happy. For whatever reason in baseball, it feels like it's a lesser part of the equation, but it has to, keeping your clubhouse happy, especially at the top. Like, I'm sorry, it's a factor. It has
clubhouse
to be in play.
happy. Okay, counter to that. Keeping the clubhouse happy, I agree with. Don't you think the clubhouse would be pissed if you're playing a guy at a position where he's not helping the team as much as he could be? Just to keep him happy, I feel like that would piss everyone else off.
Well, you got to play both sides of the fiddle because, like, yeah, maybe it upsets them, but also like an upset Rafi's going to upset people.
The other thing here is Craig said it. It is his job to put the best team on the field that he possibly can. That happens with Alex Bregman at third base, and I don't think that's much of a debate.
Well, okay, let's talk about that then, Pat. I agree. The best defensive team you can put on the field is with Alex Bregman at third base and Christian Campbell at second base and Duran in left and Cedon in center and Wilyer in right. You've got a really good defensive team if you have that alignment. Offensively, I think you're better if Bregman's at second and Devers is at third. It allows you to get Yoshida in the lineup at DH and not have to play him in left field anytime he wants to play. You're a better offensive team with Masa Yoshida in the lineup over Cedon Rafaela.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. But Gordo, this is like the conversation we had the other day. Cora has the luxury of tailoring the lineup to like the matchups and who's pitching for. Like if Garrett Crochet is pitching, I'm not super concerned about the defense. His bread and butter is striking 13 guys out over 9 innings. I'm not as much concerned. If Kutter Crawford's pitching, I'd like Cedon in center field because he gives up a lot of fly balls. You're going to need good defense out there. It's so like it's not that black and white is what I'm trying to say.
I'm going to challenge the point that Gordo just made, that the better offensive lineup is with Bregman at second.
Let's hear it.
Because if Rafi's DHing, that gets Yoshida out of the lineup. You have Bregman at third, Campbell at second, and then you still have the 3 outfield spots. I would much rather have the 3 outfield spots in Rafi and Campbell than Yoshida hit.
But you'd have Rafaela in the with Devers at third, you would have Rafaela in center, correct, Gordo? Is that what you were saying? And less.
No, if I have Devers at third, I would have Bregman at second. I would play Campbell in left, and I would have Duran in center.
Yes,
and Cedon sits. But
okay,
Pat does make a good point though, because if Bregman is at third, Devers is DHing.
Campbell's at second, and you keep the outfield.
Campbell's at second. You could keep the outfield, or you could play Yoshida in left and Duran in center and sit Cedon. So you'd either be playing the offensive lineup with the same offensive lineup, but you're sacrificing outfield defense in the name of infield defense to get Bregman and Campbell both in the infield, but this puts Yoshida in left. Or you could just go the all defense team, have Cedon in center, Duran in left. I mean, if you're going that route with the infield, you might as well just have.
This is the beauty of Bregman. Like, it's so many options.
Though, because they say they're not going to move him. Like, it should be the beauty of Bregman.
They say a lot. They said Devers was going to be a third baseman forever. Come on. We've learned to take these things with a grain of salt at this point. I mean,
that's fair.
That's Cora's way of managing. He moves guys around. Last question. If this were to happen, where Devers stays at third to keep him happy, is he officially a diva? We put that label on him?
No. Get out of here.
Rafi
has never been a diva in his life.
Like, I don't think he's a diva.
Do you even hear the way he says no? Like when Cotillo asked him to elaborate on his no, he goes, I played third base.
Dude, that's what I was thinking. Like when I watched the video, my initial reaction was like, oh, he's taking this lightly. It's like tongue in cheek almost. But now the outrage, maybe I'm wrapped up in it too much. But like, I don't know. I can't see Rafi being a diva. Like that's something a diva would do, what we described. But that's so not Rafi. That's why this whole thing is weird. He seems like a amicable guy, fun to be. He makes like Pokemon sounds when he comes out of the dugout.
He does.
Bizarre.
All right, I've got a couple of questions, and I want to get through these kind of quickly because I do want to talk about the whole Dylan Cease thing. So first, the question about him getting traded, the question that Cotillo asked him about if he would request a trade if he were moved off of third base. Was that a fair question to be asked?
Of course. Why would it not be?
I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of people annoyed at him, and I just want to, on the record, all three of us are okay with that question being asked.
Yeah. Why would you not ask it? It's a story.
And his answer,
job,
I'll go one further. I'm okay with the weight question. I'm okay with it.
It's relevant to the conversation. It's Look, dude, every time we're on WEI and we have like Breslow, for example, on, everyone's like, you didn't ask him the tough questions. Why didn't you ask him the tough question? And here we are with the media asking tough questions. And now it's like, that was unfair. Why would you ask that? Like, what do you want?
And not for nothing, his answer literally, he did not say no. So like, yeah, that's a significant, the lack of no made that answer, in my opinion, very noteworthy. Like he's obviously not going to say yes, but like, think about it like this. If someone in the Celtics media asked Jason Tatum, hey, Jason, are you thinking about requesting a trade? He'd be like, what? Of course not.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that Devers didn't do that, yeah, that's significant. So yeah, props to Cotillo for asking the question and getting an answer that adds something to the story.
Agreed. And this is Cotillo's job. It's not to make stories. It's to uncover stories. And you have to ask questions to do that. And whether he gets a good answer or not, it's part of the job. Okay, and this is why it frustrates me. Like I've said, this was my major in college. Like the journalism stuff, it's not easy. And I think people look at it sometimes and are like, oh, why don't you just ask him this? It's so simple. It's like, it's so hard to come up with these good questions. And then you have someone like Cotillo, and I think Smitty had a question too, or McAdam, like the Mass Live guys. They ask a question, it's a tough question, and they get crap for it. And I'm like, I'm not getting, I benefit zero from defending those guys. But I was like pissed when I saw that. Like, how could you complain about asking not enough tough questions, and then you get the tough question, and now it's a problem? Like, spare me. People just want to complain.
All right, next question for me. Devers seemed, especially at the end of the media availability, maybe the back half of it, he seemed to be agitated. Was he agitated because he's being told by the Red Sox, hey, we might want to move you off third base? Or is he agitated that they asked over and over and over again that he was being moved off third base? Because I think it's a little bit of both, but where do you lean more? Because to me, I thought he took it like in a happy-go-lucky way. That's how he was responding to the question. I think he understands, and he's known that this was going to be coming. Obviously, he doesn't want to move. But I think the agitation came from being asked the same question over and over again, which, again, is the media's job, and they needed to keep doing it the way they did it to get the story. So I'm not saying the media shouldn't have done it, but obviously Devers getting that question over and over again naturally was going to upset him. I lean towards the media thing.
I think he just kind of doesn't like doing media. And also, on top of that, it got a little redundant towards the end with the third base question. So I think it's as simple as he doesn't really enjoy speaking to the media, which is fine.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is that what Sammy just said, and then you also compound that with he answered the same question in 20 different iterations for like 15 minutes. Like there wasn't much other than, are you going to do this? Well, what if, would you, like it's redundant and it's probably annoying by the end of it. And I get it. It would be weird if he wasn't agitated.
And this is what I mean about like reporters trying to uncover stories. Like it sounds redundant to us, and it was kind of redundant, but if you listen back to the wording of the way that he was asked those questions, you had media members from a variety of outlets asking the same question, but in a different way. And sometimes when you do that, you get a different answer. So I don't think anyone did anything wrong, and I understand why.
And it's also expanding too. It's like would you move off third? No. Well, if they asked you, would you refuse? And then it's if they demanded it, would you request those? Would you request a trade? Those are 3 different questions. So
you have to be prepared.
Props to them for doing it.
There was one time when I was kind of new to doing like journalism stuff, and I got an interview with a really big UFC fighter, and I thought I was prepared with questions, and I had probably like 10 questions prepared, which I felt was more than enough. And the first answer the guy gave me was like 1 word. And so I start to panic, and I'm literally sweating now because this guy's terrifying looking. And I'm like, okay, question 2, nothing. So it was not a good interview that I did. Long way of me saying I have a lot of respect for these guys who are able to come up with these good questions and get these answers from these athletes on questions they maybe don't want to talk about it. Because trust me, from experience, it's not easy. And sometimes you fuck it up. I have fucked it up. It's really uncomfortable. So that's why sometimes I get defensive when I see the media getting like crap from fans. It's a hard job. It's an underrated, difficult job.
All right, last question before we get off this topic. If you're the Red Sox, we've talked about all of the factors involved here. We've hashed it all out. If you're the Red Sox, are you playing Devers at third, or are you DHing him and Bregman's your third baseman?
I'd probably, okay, let's pretend that Yoshida's healthy. If Yoshida was healthy, the lineup I would use the most would be Bregman at second, because I think that the Red Sox are at their best when they are bludgeoning other teams with offense. That is, I would say the majority of the World Series teams were kind of like that. Actually, probably all of them. You just bludgeon the other team with offense. And if your pitching is solid, you are going to win most of the time. So I would go with that. And on select occasions, maybe you have a guy who doesn't get a ton of strikeouts. Maybe you go with Sedon in center, get a little bit of a better defensive lineup out there. But yeah, most of the time I'd put Bregman at second. I think he'll be fine there.
Pat?
I think I would go Bregman at second until, into the summer. I think once Roman and Campbell get into the mix, your hands forced. You got to move Rafi to DH. To start, Rafi at third, Bregman at second.
Wouldn't you have more flexibility if you had DH open to like rotate the outfielders in regards to Roman? Because if Rafi's at third, that means you have 3 outfield spots for Duran, Abreu, Sedon, Roman. Ref Snyder's got to get in there. So that's
Campbell. If Bregman's
Campbell,
a second.
But if Devers is at DH, Campbell would be at second.
DH. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not an easy question. To me, I would play Bregman at second. And I would, if it were me making the decisions, I would be open to moving Bregman around, and I would have, against right-handed pitching, I would have Bregman at second, Devers at third, Yoshida's your DH. And against left-handed pitching, I would have Romy Gonzalez play second, I'd have Bregman play third, and I'd have Devers DH, and Yoshida would not play against left-handed pitching. That's how I would do it. If they're not going to move Bregman around, if they're insistent on having him play one position, to me, it would be second base. Interesting to hear both of you guys open to the second base thing, because I think if you listen to the conversation, most of the arguments you guys give, and I know a lot of it is wanting Devers to do what's best for the team, but I feel like if you listen to the conversation and cut that last part out, it would have sounded like you guys wanted Devers at DH and Bregman at third.
Well, this is also under the assumption that, they're not going to move him around. If they're not moving him around, it's third base. I think they're going to be forced to move him around.
They probably are, aren't they? I know they.
Yeah.
Sammy made a good point. Like, they're going to say what they're going to say. We'll see. It'll be interesting though. Like, we'll see how much work Bregman gets at second base. Like, the media's there. They see how much work. Like, today he worked at third base. We'll see in the next 2 weeks.
Gordo, that is funny because based on the conversation, if you didn't hear what we just said, you would be like, these guys both want Bregman at third and Gordo wants him at second. But no, we all want Bregman at second. We all want the big offensive lineup. I just don't like how Rafi handled this all today. It's separate from what I think they should do. I just want him to be open. I want him to do Pedroia, always doing what's best for the team. Pedroia was the best with that. So,
all right.
And again, before we end this, we all love Rafi. We're all big Rafael Devers fans. We hate to talk about the weight thing. I hate that I even have to bring it up, but I felt like I'd be doing everyone a disservice if I didn't mention it. So, anyway, we love you, Rafi. Sorry.
Shout out Rafi. I hope I junior 260 pounds and have 30 homers. Let's go. All right.
Do you believe Sandoval was 268? 5'10", 268? I looked it up before the show, like to see if it was close. Woof.
All right. We naturally talked a ton about the Devers thing. We do have to get into this Dylan Cease thing. Reports from Sean McAdam on Sunday that the Red Sox have been in touch about Dylan Cease, said it was more due diligence, and then Bradfo Monday saying that it's seen as a long shot. But I do want to get your guys' takes and give mine as well about the merits of a Dylan Cease trade. Obviously, the Red Sox have 6 starting pitchers at the moment. Kutter Crawford has a knee issue. Bayo has, I believe it was a shoulder issue, but he's already back and throwing, so I don't think that that's too much of a concern. I definitely think Kutter is the more concerning case, but would you trade for Dylan Cease? Yes or no? And let's say to get him, you had to include one of Wilyer, Abreu, or Kutter Crawford. And in Bradford's report, he said Wilyer Abreu is not a guy the Red Sox are going to trade for Cease. But would you do it? We talked about the logjam in the outfield. We talk about the 6 starting pitchers, and if you trade Kutter for Cease, you're still going to have 6 starting pitchers. Would you do it?
So normally I'd say no, but there's an interesting thing I'm looking at that's happening next winter, and I don't know if you guys have looked at the 2026 free agent class for starting pitchers, but it's borderline historically loaded. And I know this will change. Guys will come off the board, whatever. Listen to this group of names, and then I will explain why I'm naming all these guys. This is who's a free agent next year. Shane Bieber, Jack Flaherty, Walker Buehler, maybe, Eduardo Rodriguez, Zach Gallen, Ranger Suarez, Michael King, Framber Valdez, Shota Imanaga has a mutual option, Kodai Senga has an opt-out, Brandon Woodruff, Seth Lugo has a player option, Zach Eflin, and then there's other guys like Scherzer, Verlander, the older guys. There's a handful of middle-of-the-rotation guys. Point being, there is a massive wealth of free agent pitchers, which means economics 101, there's a wealth of something in the market, saturated, the prices will probably either be stagnant or go down a little bit. Now, it's weird with baseball because it seems like prices go up every year, but it's more like I don't think Cease is going to be completely closed off to an extension if you were to acquire him. And if you're not aware, Cease is on an expiring deal. That's part of why, like, trading Wilyer Abreu for Dylan Cease, it sounds like, yeah, no brainer, but it's 4 years of Wilyer for 1 year.
5.
Cease,
5
years, 5 years, excuse me. And 4 for Kutter? 4 or 5 for Kutter. 4 for Kutter, 5 for Wilyer. So it's a lot of control for a very little bit of control. Obviously, Cease, the better player. But if I'm the Red Sox, I have zero interest in acquiring Dylan Cease unless I plan on extending him. And I think the odds of him being extended this year are higher than they would normally be because of that free agent class, because the prices are not going to be as extravagant as they were like this year. It's not going to be as much of an increase. He'll still get paid beautifully by the Red Sox or whoever pays him. I just think he'd be at least open to discussing an extension in season or right after the season. That's why I'm a little more open to it than I normally would.
I get the market, but he's a Boris guy. Boris guys have almost never signed extensions, and certainly not the year before free agency. That never happens.
Probably not, but things change. You never know. If the Red Sox like speak to him and they get a feel like they're like, okay, this guy might be open to it, then go for it. So,
but
you
can't speak to him until you trade for him.
Yeah, no, I know, but things happen.
Pat, what would you do? Would you trade for him or not?
No, I wouldn't. And not because Cease is a phenomenal pitcher. It's not that I do not want Dylan Cease on my favorite.
Cease is a top what pitcher in baseball? What do you think, Pat? Top what? 15? 10?
No, not 10. I would say
15, 20.
15 to 18, yeah.
He's the type of guy that's like, he's not an ace, but he's like a number 1B. Like he's number one-ish kind of guy. But yeah, Pat, go on.
He's not as good as Crochet, like we think Crochet is, but he's better than Tanner Houck. That's kind of where you're looking at. But no, I wouldn't. And I think it just comes down to it's AJ Preller. He's gonna want, decent return for a rental, which, I mean, understandably so. We were just talking about how great Dylan Cease is. That being said, you already have a very legit like logjam. Like, it's not like you have like 3 very good starters and 3 like so-so starters. You're trying to figure out, who's going to be that 5th guy. You have a very good 5-man rotation and a very, very good sixth starter already rostered on the team. And that is not including Patrick Sandoval, who's going to be back midseason. So if you bring in Cease, there would have to be a whole dominoes of moves, like a whole domino effect of moves to make that roster-wise make sense. And to me, I just don't see how you do that right now. Next year, controlled for the rotation, you have Crochet, Houck, Bayo, Kutter, and Sandoval. Next year, when all these guys are free agents, sure, go for it. Bring in Dylan
pay him.
Cease.
Pay him.
Exactly. But right now, this very point in time, I just don't see how it fits, which is crazy to say about Dylan Cease.
You make it fit. Still, no, I get what you're saying, guys. I'm not really firm on either side of the argument. Gordo, can I respond to the thing you said about Scott Boras? I agree with you. You're totally right that his guys don't always sign extensions. It's very unlikely. But a few recent examples: Carlos Gonzalez did in 2011, Elvis Andrews in 2013, Steven Strasburg 2016, Altuve in 2018, and of course Xander 2019. So it is unlikely. That does have to be taken into account, but
those are decade-old extensions, and how many of them were the year before free agency?
No, I mean, one of them was a decade old. The other ones were more recent.
But how many of those were a year before free agency?
Oh, I'm not sure.
It can't be many. Xander was, I don't know. Look that up. I'll give you my take, because I wouldn't do this. I don't even understand why it's a discussion, to be honest with you, and it has nothing to do with the fact that, like, Wilyer, Abreu, and Kutter, Crawford, I get, are surpluses.
A year.
Xander was a year?
Xander was a year away.
Okay.
I remember being stunned. Red Sox locked up Bogarts. He was only 26 at the time and a year away. Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong. You're absolutely right. It's a Boris guy. Yeah. And this crazy pitching market free agency class is part of why I think that this might be one of those circumstances, but it's not lost on me that this is a gigantic risk to take if the Red Sox were to do it. Just think
and it's just unnecessary.
Such a
it's unnecessary because, like Pat said, you've got the six starters.
I don't know about that, dude. Unnecessary is not the
Sammy. The thing is, the Red Sox are built to win in 25. I get that, and it's hard to make the argument against getting a guy who would either be your number one or number two starting pitcher. Like, it's hard to make the argument that, hey, let's not make the team better in 2025. But this is like you're trying to build something here, something sustainable and a sustainable winner. I know people hate hearing that, but the truth is, we're not trying to just get this team to the World Series in 2025. We want this team to be competing for championships for years to come. And I'm not saying you can't trade Wilyer or Kutter, but if you're going to do it, it sure as hell can't be for a rental. I don't think there's a rental in baseball that I would trade Wilyer or Abreu for right now.
Vlad.
Trading for Cease.
You would trade Vlad.
I don't think I would. I don't think I would do it.
If you were at the table and they were like, Gordo, hit this green button. If you hit the green button, Vlad is on the Red Sox for Wilyer alone. You'd be like, I gotta do it.
My heart might say it. My heart might do that. My head says no. It feels short-sighted, and it's fun to have big name starters throwing every day. But if you're trading Wilyer or Kutter, that has to be in a Jared Jones package. I know it's going to take a lot more, but if you're trading controllable guys, controllable established big leaguers, you got to be getting controllable established big leaguers. I'm not trading. Wilyer Abreu was an above average major league player last year, and you're talking about trading him for a rental.
But it's still Cease. It's like a stud rental.
You don't need a starter. What is your rotation if Dylan Cease comes in and Kutter leaves?
My rotation would be Cease, Houck, Crochet, whatever order you want, Bayo, Giolito.
So you just signed a Buehler for 20-something million? He's not even in your rotation?
Buehler. Sorry, not Giolito. Buehler. And
so
then
now Giolito's making
20-something
million. He's not in the rotation? It doesn't make any sense.
But we got Dylan Cease. It's fine. You got Dylan Cease.
So why are you trading legitimate above-average big league players to get
Dylan Cease?
To then kick Lucas Giolito out of your rotation?
Well, what if Cease is 10 times better? I know, no. It's a weird fit. I get it. But we're talking about six-man rotation. What if they do six-man rotation? We talk injuries going to happen. Cutter's already hurt. You what?
I don't like six-man rotation the full season either. Spots, yes. But Sammy, the easy decision for me is you have so many guys where it's you don't know what you're going to get from Giolito. You don't know what you're going to get from Buehler. See what these guys give you, and if it's not this team is good enough where it is so unlikely that midseason comes around and they're out of it and selling at the deadline.
Yeah.
So if you
but
need
Gordo,
to
if
make a
you
move
wait
at the
to
deadline, you can.
But then prices go up. If you're okay with that, then
Wilyer's
fine.
a big
then
price.
Fine. What?
Wilyer's
No, but I'm saying it'll go
already.
up. It'll go up, I'm saying. Prices go up at the deadline because all the teams who are selling have all the leverage, especially with the new playoff format when there's way less sellers. I'd be okay with that. I'm not saying I don't like that. I'd be okay with it, but that's the issue with it. By the way, more on this free agent topic, Kyle Tucker and Vlad Guerrero Jr., also free agents. Not pitchers, of course, but that just saturates the market anymore. This is going to be
it's a big class. It's a big
monstrous class. So we think, we'll see if shit gets extended, but
and if
I'm
guys
just saying,
suck. Guys can suck
think,
too.
Yeah.
Like if Bo
I just think
sucks.
guys are going to be, in general, I think guys will be a little more open to extensions, especially if they're plugging holes.
Shut up, Sammy.
And on that note, no. Hector Gomez just had a really good tweet. We'll use this as our kind of collective enough said, more of a thinking point. To Rafael Devers. Cal Ripken moved from shortstop to third base. Same thing happened with Alex Rodriguez and Tony Fernandez. Vlad Guerrero Jr. moved from third base to first base. George Bell won an MVP as an outfielder, then was moved to DH. Fernando Tatis was extended as a shortstop and immediately moved to right field and became the best defensive right fielder in baseball. And then you have guys like Judge who moved from right field to center field. There's so much evidence of guys moving to make for a better team. And I think that's just thought-provoking.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it at that.
Albert Pujols, too. Did you mention Pujols? I think Pujols moved from third to left to first.
Let's not forget the best player of our generation just moved from center field to right field today, Mike Trout.
How about Mookie? Mookie's playing shortstop now. He went from a second base to center field to right field to shortstop, back to right field, back to shortstop. I don't want to rip on Rafi, but you got to be a little more chill, Rafi. Be more chill. By the way, I know we're not doing enough said, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to dunk on me because you like to call me old. Now I'm fat too. I went to the suit store, Men's Warehouse. I got to get a suit. I'm in a bachelor party. I went up 2 sizes. So not only am I old, I'm also fat now. So
that's that's the media dining and gummy bears. That's that shit
funny?
talking.
Yeah.
When I walked in, this guy was in front of me. Had to have been 6'8" or 9" and big. And I'm thinking what size is this guy? I'm fitting into a slim size. Nope. I'm fat. So I'm fat now. You guys can roast me for it. But I will be getting back into shape. I'll be running shortly. I hope. I promise. I hope.
We're moving you off third base.
Yeah.
Come on. I take a lot of.
Oh my God.
This is why I'm allowed to bring up Devers' weight because I'm dunking on myself too. Fat self.
You can dish it if you can take it. That's the rule. You're allowed to dish it, but you have to take it. If you don't dish it, you don't have to take it.
And boy, do we love
dish. You got to take it. Shut up. Don't even say it. All right, we got to wrap. But I am also going to use my enough said, so I guess we're all just doing enough said. Here's to hoping that by the time you listen to this, Vlad Guerrero Jr. has not signed an extension because supposedly if that's the case, then he is not getting extended. Hopefully that didn't happen before this thing dropped. And that'll do it for episode 179 of Play Test. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one, talking a lot of Rafi Devers and Alex Bregman and Dylan Cease and all this good stuff. It's a great time to be a Red Sox fan and listening to Play Tessie. So tell all your friends about it. All your friends who want to get back into the Red Sox this year because they're such a good team. Tell them about Play Tessie. Subscribe. The Odyssey app, Spotify, Apple. Subscribe everywhere you listen. Rate 5 stars. Leave a comment. Tell us what you do with Devers, where you'd play him. Same thing on YouTube. Leave a comment there. We've got all the Play Tessie videos on the WEI channel in the Play Tessie playlist. So subscribe to WEI. Hit the thumbs up on all of our videos in the playlist. And find us on the socials at Play Tessie on both Twitter and Instagram. So for Sammy, who's up 2 sizes. For Pat, who's not up 2 sizes and his traps have never looked bigger. It's Gordo here. Oh, and Joe producing in the back. It is Gordo here for Play Tessie. Thanks for tuning into this one. Peace.